It is November 26th, Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. or a minute after. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone, on this wonderful Tuesday.
Cloudy.
Yes, everybody should write down on their piece of paper how much snow we're going to get here in the next 48 hours.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's more like 1 to 2 inches.
instead of the 10.
Well, for a moment there, I thought you were going to say 1 to 2 feet.
My kids would probably go for that.
Well, Virgil's been excited.
I bet.
Yeah, right.
It is showtime, it's right.
I heard for the first plow, he's going to drive the first 24 hours himself.
Well,
It was supposed to be a photo op. Our highway
it's gonna take
engineer
him to get from
gets
St.
in
Cloud
for
to
the
work.
first day of plowing. It's kind of a motivational leadership thing, right?
Well, you know, the problem is if we let Virgil and the sheriff do the plowing, then our county auditor, our county attorneys are going to be very busy taking care of all the lawsuits. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Oh, anyway.
All right.
So, all right. No, we'll go back. So everybody got a chance to review the November 19th minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Potter to approve the November 19th minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. The agenda for today, is there any modifications to today's agenda?
Mr. Chair, I just had a correction on item for consideration B. That should read 12/13/19, not 11/13/19. The wrong date is listed throughout. So just,
I figured we weren't going back in time, but you know,
I know where we could find a DeLorean, but
does it go 85 miles an hour?
that I don't know.
Ours is 88. I don't remember what the speed was.
The speedometer only goes to 85, and if you go beyond 85,
Go back in time.
speedometer breaks
Ah,
because there were plastic gears.
Oh,
okay. So any other discussion then for a motion to approve today's agenda? Motion by Commissioner Potter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved with the modification of that date. Today's consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Charlie.
I would like to I need the date on the time on item B, so I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with item B, removed for quick discussion.
Okay. So I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell to approve today's consent agenda with the removal of item B.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to remove item G and send to either committee of the whole or to personnel committee.
Item C?
G.
G. Oh, okay.
All right, so is that a friendly amendment to remove item G?
So we'll move item G as well, that's fine.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Burrell to approve today's consent agenda with removing items B and G, and that was seconded by Commissioner Dahlheiden.
Yep.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we will begin with item B.
I just need to know, apparently we're having a Ways and Means Committee meeting that day. I need to know the time is all.
Aren't they 10 a.m. for Ways and Means? Or is it 9:30, 9? I can't
I
remember.
don't know if
We
we
can
have
move
it.
it around. Usually it's somewhere between 9 and 11. So is there a time that
Well,
works
just,
better?
the only thing is if it gets too late, I have to be in St. Cloud at 1 o'clock, so.
Okay.
If it goes for 2 hours, my
don't
goodness,
think
that'd be
it
the
will.
longest
No.
Ways and Means Committee.
If it's at 11 though, and it goes for an hour
It
and then.
usually,
Drive time, that's true.
they often have technology at 11, so it'll
Yeah,
probably
so-
be at 9 or 10, depending if we
Okay.
have personnel.
All right, then I'm good, so.
Okay. We'll note that though. Thank you.
Do we
You
want
know,
a
start
motion
at
individually on these?
7.
Okay, so with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve item B.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter to approve refer to the Drainage Ag Inspector 2019 year-end report to the Ways and Means Committee on December 18th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now coming back to item G, the position replacement, Surveyor Department Admin Assistant position. Commissioner Dahlheiden.
I don't know if you heard that the person that had that position only lasted 2 months. So I think maybe some more discussion needs to be taking place. I don't know if you want to do it as a committee of the whole, or if you want to send it to personnel to start the discussion to find out.
I'm okay either way. I mean, whatever.
I'm okay with it going to personnel, so.
I'm okay with it going to personnel, because I've got enough background on it. I'm okay with you guys kind of
Airing it out.
airing it out. I think we have
In some respects, I think it'd be nice to have committee of the whole, but I'm comfortable if you want to do.
Makes no difference to
What are
me.
you thinking, Potter?
What's your recommendation, Administrator Kelly?
I sent to personnel, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Works for me.
All right, we'll refer to Personnel Committee.
make a motion
Now,
to
that's
that.
going to be after, 'cause we got one more here in December, right?
Yeah, we'll have the 18th as the committee day for December,
So we're referring it to December 18th committee, Personnel Committee. All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahl and second by Commissioner Potter to refer the position replacement of the Surveyors Department to the December 18th Personnel Committee, and I'm guessing that position you are recommending is put on hold until the Personnel Committee meets?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, we would have to, because the board has not approved, this is kind of the mechanism of how it works now.
Yep.
So
It's been
until that
posted,
date,
they'll
we'll
just
hold
do it.
off.
Perfect, all right. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item G is approved. Now we are, Virgil's going to talk fast. I'm 6 minutes behind.
See what I can do, there's snow coming.
Well, you know, I hear they're getting your plow all ready for you.
You guys got enough salt?
Yes, we do.
good.
Do you get to
Good
drive the
morning.
new one?
Chairman Vetch, what's that?
Do you get to drive the new plow?
I do not.
He's not authorized.
This morning, I've one item for your consideration. It's to request approving a sponsoring agency resolution for the Transportation Alternative Project for the city of Howard Lake. They're applying for some funds for sidewalk improvement, and since they're a city under 5,000, they need a sponsor. And this is kind of a standard thing. There's also, I learned this morning, there's some other transportation alternative applications from Maple Lake and Dassel Cokato schools that I'll be bringing to you either next Tuesday or
Great.
the last meeting in December.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, pedestrian improvements, is it just within the city limits, going east, going west, or downtown?
This one is in Howard Lake. It's along Highway 12.
Yeah, yeah. But what part? East, downtown, west part?
I think right between Highway, actually, it's in conjunction with the MnDOT project that they're going to be redoing Highway 12 throughout the whole length. And these improvements are pretty much the whole length.
The whole length, okay.
Of Highway 12 through the city of Howard Lake, plus a little bit on north on our Highway 6.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
Sounds
Chair,
like
Yes.
safe
make a
schools.
motion to approve the resolution, transportation alternative projects for Howard Lake.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston for the resolution to approve sponsoring agency resolution for the city of Howard Lake. Any further discussion? This is a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
No, we're good. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Passes 6-0, right?
6-0, yep.
Well, it could go that way sometimes.
All right. Auditor Treasurer, Mr. Bob Hevela, we are looking to approve the October revenue expenditure budget report.
Good morning, Board.
Look at that.
There's really nothing for me to draw your attention to that we haven't drawn your attention to in the past. We're 83% of the way through the budget year. Some of our revenues were ahead of budget, but cyclically they slow down as we get closer to the end of the year. So I really have nothing to draw your attention to other than we're on budget. So
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before we move on from that, just for the public, Bob, would you guesstimate what percentage of our budget is mandated at us by state and laws? 80%, 85%?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, I'd venture a guess that it's north of 50% of our budget is mandated by services.
North of which one?
I'd say north of 50% on, right here.
Okay.
That's a very
the
subjective
analysis.
statement, though, because depending on, we're doing that index of mandated
Right.
services, and depending on how you look at different things, you can quantify technology service as mandated as we need that technology services to support the other mandated service within HHS. So some of them are just, how far do you track down?
Right, I mean, and then we're talking a lot of personnel also, so, I mean, how, you start figuring how many people you need to deliver these mandated services, and
Mr. Chair, where I went there is, because again, the tax statements all came out, and again, every year, what's mandated, what's not mandated. Some people have a total disconnect of what's actually mandated at us that we need to do. Again, people think you can cut 20% off a budget, and that's not real world. A couple percent is one thing, 20% is a whole nother. And they, like I say, this year, my taxes went up by 9%. What's going on? Anyway,
Did yours go up 9%?
mine did, but my value went up by $20,000, so what do you expect?
And I think that was kind of the going theme. I think
Right.
most properties in Wright County increased in that $15,000 to $20,000 on average in property value. That's just what the market is for residential right now. Commercial was a lot more flat in terms of value increase, but
Yep.
so,
My commercial went up by $5.
yeah,
Yep.
our lake lot went down 2%, and our
Anyway, thank you,
guys-
Bob.
went up,
Guys locked out.
yeah.
I'll make a motion to October.
Second.
we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlite and second by Commissioner Potter to approve the October revenue expenditure report. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Perfect. Motion passed unanimously. Now we are scheduling a ditch committee of the whole for a public hearing for the petition of a partial abandonment of County Ditch 29. This was a kind of formalizing something that was brought forward to us 6 weeks ago. I think we had that information. Well, this is kind of an ongoing.
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, originally this public hearing was set to go over the redetermination of benefits. Subsequent to that, we had received this petition for partial abandonment.
Is this an additional one, or is this the one that took place from the 1960s that we were formalizing out before? Is this additional abandonment? I have to ask Matt. I just know that there was conversation for people that were looking at additional options for abandonment on that one, and then,
Vetch, I guess members of the board, with how many ditches we have, I'll be frankly honest, between 29, 39, and 29, I get them mixed up. But this one, we had a public hearing scheduled for a redetermination, a restoration of records proceeding that got, after that was scheduled, we then got a petition for partial abandonment. We'd like to do the partial abandonment because it'll affect the records restoration if we approve it.
because then we can include it in the new redetermination of benefits. Yep. And that's what I thought. I just, like I said, I had so many of these ditches in flux right now that I'm trying to wrap my head around which one was which.
Now, this ditch has some additional issues with it, so that are going to be a challenge going forward too.
So,
So-
yep. It's a very, very small ditch.
And then
But
I guess I have a
houses were
question.
built on top of the closed tile system.
Exactly.
Will we send notifications out to all the benefited landowners for
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Because you may have just one landowner that doesn't care if their land is flooded, but if it affects other people's property, it's going to be an issue.
Yes,
So-
yeah. We're going to just change the purpose of the public hearing.
Because with this removal, we may be down to less than a half a mile of in total ditch for this entire system.
Could be, yes.
Well,
Well, it looks like this part only
short?
it's just one lateral is what it looks like.
Yeah, but just it was very small to begin with. It's,
You know.
yeah.
It looks like there's only 2 property owners that it really has an effect on.
On this abandonment piece, yeah.
Yeah.
The abandonment is, yeah. So it's,
Yeah, and just a little bit of one.
Yeah, see, and if 82,400 is the one that's petitioning to not have it, doesn't care if it works, the property right to the south of it, the 83,200, it affects their property. So they would have to be on board with this as well. the way
Well,
I
I
see
think
it.
we should leave it until we have the public hearing and
Yeah.
not prejudge it.
Okay.
Do you have a specific date for this public hearing? Are you doing January
What you had
14th?
for the restoration of records.
January 14th.
January 14th, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the one thing we did is we moved it from 1:30 to 2:45 to avoid any conflicts if people were attending the 1:30 redetermination of benefits. So the recommendation is to set it at 2:45 on the 14th.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for petition of partial abandonment on January 14th, 2020 at 2:45.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter to schedule a ditch committee of the whole public hearing for petition of partial abandonment of County Ditch 29 at 2:45 on January 14th, 2020. Any further discussion?
And just
All
for
right, Administrator
clarification,
Kelly.
we are canceling the 1:30.
No, the 131 is staying
Remaining.
because that is for the redetermination of benefits. This is for the abandonment that will take place after the fact.
Just wanted to make sure.
Which, wouldn't we want to do the abandonment prior to the redetermination of benefits public hearing? I was wondering if we should be doing this one at 12 or 1, so you'd be doing the abandonment prior to the redetermination of benefits on, no? Okay.
Mr.
You're the
Chair.
attorney, I'm not, so, okay, that's fine, I just,
We can't act on it backwards.
okay.
Mr. Chair, or Administrator, the recommendation is to actually cancel that public hearing for the redetermination of benefits.
Oh, you are going to cancel the public hearing for the,
This
but you're going to keep the
partial.
one for 20 and 36 on January 14th. You're just canceling the public hearing for 29 on January 14th.
I would assume that's correct, yeah.
Because we have 3 of them we're doing on January 14th, but we're canceling just the one.
Right.
I'm just making sure we're not misleading the public.
This
That's
partial
why I raised the
abandonment,
question.
I just,
partial abandonment on this ditch would affect the allocation of the benefits for the remaining. benefit
yes, so
left.
we're canceling the public hearing for just County Ditch 29 for the redetermination of benefits. We are keeping the redetermination of benefits public hearing for County Ditch 20 and County Ditch 36
That's
at
correct.
1:30.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And then we're going to add this one on at 2:45.
Yep, perfect. I just want to make sure that we're not misleading anybody on that. All right,
My understanding, so I just wanted to be sure.
What?
we're good?
I'm good.
A lot of
That's-
ditches.
Where are we?
In this room.
Went Buffalo.
All right, it's clear as mud, so.
There's the Crow River.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ditch Committee of the Whole is set with public hearing on January 14th at 2:45 for partial abandonment of County Ditch 29. Now we are moving on to item C, the consideration of upgrading tactical training center indoor range from pistol to rifles. Alan and Sheriff Derringer here to speak on this one.
Morning, Mr. Chair and Board. Just one item for the Tactical Training Center to consider the upgrade of the indoor range from pistol capable to rifle capable. And the cost of that is $106,000, $106,197, and that is in your packet as well. Lays out the needed changes corresponding to that request. Essentially, it's addition of steel down the range, ballistic rubber tiles on the sidewalls, and some additional steel over the baffles in the range. The trap itself is capable, but Sheriff Derringer's here to speak to the request as he made the request, and we got the pricing for your consideration, so.
Sheriff Derringer?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I apologize for this. This was an oversight on my part with my background and experience in firearms training. I knew that the backstop would be rifle capable. I overlooked the additional wall support and the baffling in the ceiling. So obviously, if we're looking to encompass a training center that would fit all of our needs, I felt that this was important. Not that we can do everything in a 25-yard indoor range that we're going to be able to do on a 200-yard outdoor range, but a lot of the fundamental things would be important, and we would start the rifle program on a 25-yard line to do the site-in, the time-consuming things, and then we can move from there to the outdoor range. So every indoor range that we go to, whether it's Tactical Advantage up in St. Cloud, Sherburne County, Elk River PD, all of those ranges are all rifle capable, and so it was an oversight on my part, not realizing that we would just make some pistol indoor range. So I did request Alan to follow up with our folks to see what the additional cost would be for the baffling and the added wall support, and this is what they came up with, so.
Mr. Chair, and I would
Commissioner
support
Brown.
this. I mean, the facility is in my district, and anything that we can keep inside makes less shooting outside, and it will be a better for the community out there, so.
I guess my biggest thing is figuring out where the money's coming from on it, and I mean, that would be one thing where I just have to spend some time wrapping my head on a funding source for this, because we have a lot of things that just came out of the last committee of the whole that we're trying to find funding for. I'm trying to avoid a pinch point in the upcoming budget of the next year. I do understand we do have departments that have some additional asks that haven't come forward yet. We do have to be really sensitive here, guys.
So I can speak to that a little bit. And you'll see in the owner's minutes, we went through some of those items, but the project itself, we had a couple of large swings in the contingencies. Two items were doubled up in the bids, so there's one item was $213,000 that credited us back because the air handling was doubled up in two scopes between the range folks and the mechanical people, and as well as the range company also doubled up the concrete for the range, which was a savings to the county of $58,580. So between those two items, if this was selected, we would be approximately give or take $90,000 into our contingency. If we do not select this, we would be about $16,000. So kind of the project is sitting good either way.
Well,
Because
you're
of these-
actually adding in 270,000 into contingency, really, essentially.
as a favorable, yes.
Yeah, and then you'd
But
be subtracting out, so you'd still be adding a positive over $100,000.
I'm saying as a whole, there was a couple other items.
Yeah, I
with
seen a
regards to
couple other
earthwork
items, I
and
mean,
as
just
a
on that
net.
one item, but overall, we're still
As a net, we would be dipping into our contingency as a total.
$16,000 if we approve it.
But some of those big items that we got were favorable to help us with the contingency, so that kind of allowed for.
Mr. Chair, I
Husum.
mean, if it's appropriate, I think it would be good to go through the minutes and, you know, some of the change orders, just as an overall picture, because when we were having a discussion at the Tactical Training Center meeting, you know, it kind of lays it all out, and these are a lot of pieces of paper here to try to sort.
Also, I think,
through.
Alan, since you're up here, want to just
But-
walk us through that owners committee, because that would help me just wrap my head on a
I
discussion.
think
Let's
that
kinda
would
take
be.
the minutes for that right
That
now.
would be good for us
I
to
don't have
do.
the packet with me.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Here. Here you go.
I was kind of surprised, I didn't realize we had that much going
We
already
have a
on
lot
that.
of papers, so, oops, I missed this one for you, but.
So Alan's gonna be doing the technical center.
Yeah, the
if
Justice
that's-
Center, yeah.
I mean, if that's appropriate, because I think that that gives.
Tactical Center
I
we're
think
doing.
that gives a overall picture
You're
of,
okay with that, right? And good.
yes, yeah, Alan, I mean. Alan would do a better.
Well, we can just kind of talk through it, I mean, okay, I mean, I
The minutes-
understand.
The minutes are all there, and
Yeah,
you're
I can
familiar
just-
with the minutes, so.
I can just summarize through the minutes and
Yep.
kind of give an overview of activity of what's going on out there. So we went through the 6-week schedule first. Current activity at the range, I can tell, just kind of giving an overview. The outdoor range areas, the bullet traps are all installed, the concrete's in, the rubber material's in, the targets themselves are not in. They'll be coming back in spring when they come to do the indoor range to finish up the outdoor range as well. But TRS is off-site now, the bullet traps are all in. All of the earthwork is essentially done until spring. Looking shaped and appropriate, really close to grade. Most of the berms have also been seeded. The next thing coming is the panels, precast panels be delivered coming the week after Thanksgiving, and that is for the shooting range tower, just a couple panels. Then the week after that, the building panels come. So you'll start seeing erection of those building panels coming early December, roughly December 9th that week. Block wall is up currently, the separating the indoor range from the rest of the building. There's a double wall system in there for sound control and bullet protection. That wall is mostly in. I wasn't there yesterday, so I'm not sure if it's completed, but they've got a large portion of that block wall done. Septic system is in, the well is in, power's into the site. They're setting the transformer. We discussed some of the site work and talked through some of the change orders. A couple of things that changed with regards to the site that I mentioned, some of the contingency larger swings we had. One of them being the outdoor range. The bullet trap sloping was incorrectly specified. They gave a slope of 4-to-1 when it was actually supposed to be a 2-to-1. TRS showed up and said, no, you have it at 4-to-1. It works better and is supposed to be a 2-to-1. I'm working through some of those things as to where that information came from, if it was just a spec from the civil engineer or if it was provided by somebody ahead of time and not implemented. So I'm working through that right now, trying to dig into what happened with that between WINC and TRS and BKV and going through minutes and notes. But that was a cost of 15 grand. They had to come back to revise it so they could get the bullet traps in. Otherwise, TRS was going to leave and go to a project in Texas because they didn't have work to do until that was corrected. Some additional earthwork. There was, from the time the plans went out and we went to bid, Highway Department was cleaning their piles and they took more material than was in the piles. So they took a bunch of gravel from right on the building pad site essentially and utilized it on a project. So we had to bring some material over from the field to the east and scrape it over to rebuild the pad site. So there was some additional cost to do that from what was in the bid documents. Just a few items like that, mainly earthwork projects. And then the two items I noted earlier, we got credit for the concrete that was doubled up as well as the air handler and the range was doubled up. Going back to the minutes, kind of run through discussion. We talked a little bit about the IT department and the space in the data room. I think there's some discussion going around about use of that data room, if it's a backup center, if it's supplying that facility, or what exactly happens with it. So we talked a little bit about that. Just a quick side note update on the minutes. The IT department would like to keep the same size of that room for future use. It will be used as a backup center at some point by somebody. I think discussion is ongoing about who utilizes it or how that's utilized, but so we spoke through some of that IT space because we were going to take some of that space for the rest of the facility if it wasn't utilized by IT. We also spoke a little bit about fire service to the building. We don't have a wet sprinkler system in there, and they'd plan to service it with a tanker truck. However, we just put in a well and looking at options to consider a 2-inch connection for a pumper truck. When they arrive, they could connect right to the well service and supply for the building. So we're looking at some options for that. Spoke a little bit about the budget cost summary sheets to the items that I just mentioned with regards to the air handling unit and concrete on the range. And then we talked through this indoor conversion of the range from pistol to rifle. Didn't go too deep into that just because we knew it had to come to this committee given the value and one commissioner on site at the meeting. And then the other item that I would note that we spoke about is a change from footings to go into stem walls. That allowed us to get stem walls on the footing so we could get backfilled and get the concrete precast panels done. Had we waited and didn't do stem walls, we potentially, with the freeze up we had, wouldn't have been able to get the compaction test we needed for backfilling those footings and burying part of the precast panels. So we put stem walls in to get us backfilled and at grade so we can set the panels on top. So that was about it. And then the recommendation was to submit the item here today to discuss the indoor range.
What are they looking at from, now that we're actually getting some serious movement on this, what are they looking at for a time frame? What's their estimated completion date?
Completion, we should be in there by around July, say mid-July, that the facility be operational. It was about a 10-month project. I can't remember exactly the day that we started the site, but 10 months from when we started.
Yeah,
They're
no,
on
RJM,
schedule and things are good.
They figured they'd have it done. I'll make a
Late June,
motion,
early July.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of the rifle capable.
I'll second that.
And the minutes from,
And-
Those are separate.
Separate.
all right. So we have a motion to approve, make the adjustment to the training tactical center for the range upgrade. A motion by Commissioner Dahlheim and such, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussion?
He did,
Or,
yeah.
oh, sorry, second by
I didn't
Commissioner
get you.
Burrell. All right. Any other further discussion? Okay.
Since we're approving this, do we need to have a conversation with the sheriff later regarding his salary for next year?
Gotta pay for this somehow, right?
Well, I mean, I feel much more comfortable knowing that we have the savings and just some bidding that,
Right.
so.
No, if we wouldn't save money.
We've got money in the contingency, so we're.
Well, it's not even the contingency. I mean, the majority of it was in the fact that the bidding was off, so it got
That's
put into
true.
the.
That's true.
I guess you're right and I'm right.
Yeah.
We're both right.
Right.
The
Yep.
good thing to consider is we're through all of the earthwork is done.
Yep.
The utilities are in, the well septic are in, the foundation footing, stem walls are all in, so a majority of the major items that change in construction contingency are there. Not to say there isn't gonna be small stuff and use it, but a big chunk of stuff that you typically see construction contingency used on is done.
Well, the thing is, you look at this, 2 bidding errors make a right. You know, you
Yeah.
get one person that bids too many of the same thing, and then the other person forgets to bid something that's supposed to be included into it, so 2 bid errors make a right, because.
And another savings is the fact that, you know, the drain is kind of a natural drain field, so you don't have to, you know, deal with that either in part of the construction, so. If you haven't been out there, I mean, the sheriff and I both said, this is just beautiful out here. It's just really, I mean, the former gravel pit that has just been built up and it really looks nice. It burns up and it's just really, really.
So, Commissioner Hewson, since we already just went through the minutes, you looking to make a motion to approve the,
We should vote on the,
First.
we already, oh, sorry, we have a motion and a second, any other further discussion? I forgot that, I lost track, I'm around, I thought we already got that done. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, now you're good.
yeah, and Mr. Chair will
Mr.
make a
Chair.
motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from,
November 19th.
I'll second it.
It's a motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Dahlheim for the committee, Owners Committee Tactical Center on November 19th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Alan, for running
Thank you.
through that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yesterday, on my way back from Cokato, I stopped by the tax center and take a look at that, and it's impressive what has been done out there, the earthwork, and how quick Faines went through that and got that done. It looks completely different. If you remember the picture from before, and you look at it now, you won't believe it's the same piece of property. It
So,
is-
I'm going to myself take over the new Justice Center minutes with maybe some assistance from
New Justice Center?
New Justice Center.
new-
Or new Government Center.
Do we vote?
Sorry. The Owners Committee minutes from November 20th, the new Government Center. Myself and Commissioner Dahlheim were in attendance along with a variety of other people that if you want to look, you can read it yourself. I'm not going to read off all those names. Basically, this was the very first Owners Committee meeting, basically kind of laid out the time schedule, kind of talked over how the building process will go forward, and kind of the methodology that they're using in terms of construction. Now, I'm going to make sure I get this right. It's, if you're facing the front of the building, it was right to left.
Left to right.
Left to right,
Yes,
yep.
left to
So you're
right,
going from the
west to
Justice
east.
Center to Braddock. They're doing all the construction on that, in that methodology. So though you'll be seeing, it kind of progressing from the Justice Center heading towards Braddock if
Okay.
you're facing the front of the building. That's kind of stacking for that. We also talked about just some of the change orders in the amount of $36,000 to date. Most of them were just minor things that were, I think one of them was an ADA plumbing, a couple bathroom, plumbing, ADA pieces, and then there was the stuff, the upgrades for the potential dental center, making sure that area is ready if that does come to fruition. Also talked about that all the stormwater lines are installed for the parking lot area, for the whole parking lot areas.
Not all of it.
Well, in the front, the main parking lot areas, just nothing in the back. Everything in the north side parking lot.
Most everything to the north side is in, except just directly right around the northeast corner of the government center, between the government center and the justice center. There's a tie-in between those two, but pretty much everything from the main new drive coming in and north is all in.
So, then other side of that, it was, the recommendation was to refer the dental clinic and the cafe discussions to the December 13th. We had some discussions that if there needs to be any changes for either of those facilities, that we should be vetting that out sooner than later. So we are going to have a deeper discussion on December 13th about those two items.
Good.
So with that, I will look for I'll make or I can't make a motion, but I can't make a motion. I was going to.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dowlight, second by Commissioner Potter to approve the minutes and recommendations from November 20th. See, I'm not used to
second
getting
that.
minutes, but I thought I'd do you guys a favor, so.
I second that.
All right, we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing, it was motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner
Oh, was
Dowlight.
it
Yep,
already?
yep,
Okay.
there's already motion and a second.
All right.
Any further discussion?
Other way around, but it was those two.
Oh, those two around. Then I got lots of motions, everybody's like super eager to make motions today.
Except for Brian, he's over there just.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Justice Center minutes. Anybody want to jump on it?
Mike was there.
Mike, all right, Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Justice Center Owners Committee met November 20th, and everybody that was supposed to be there was there, except for the people that weren't there.
I had to be down, I was meeting with DNR down in St. Paul that day, so I couldn't
Right,
be.
you had something going on. This was pretty light one here, was a current activity outlook. Again, you already talked about the storm piping in the parking lot areas to rough grade. It looks a lot different out there now. You can actually, when you get up on the second floor of the Justice Center, you can actually visualize the entrance coming into there, which is kind of nice. Level 0, which is the lower one, interior framing is pretty much framed out throughout the whole thing. We took a tour of it, it was pretty good. And a working area, they're working in a law library area now. One of the things that did change is in the Wright choice area, they took out a wall, which is a little savings because it was too small without that. So it's actually more flexibility without that wall in there, which is kind of nice. In courtrooms in level 1, speakers, wood panels, and all that are being installed. The coiling doors, which are the locking doors, so you can't get in there. Waiting and delivery and installation that doesn't take too long. Level 2, they're finishing sheetrock and taping. Like I say, if you haven't been out there for a while, it has changed dramatically in the last month here. In level 3, they're painting and finishing much of the floor. They were doing the Venetian walls in the atrium area. That's for lack of better words, it's a plaster type. It's kind of a neat looking deal, and it's there. They're working on the penthouse of the HVAC, but that stuff is ongoing. There's no long-term schedule adjustments, and spring work will depend on frost. Like say what they say, there's nothing really earth-shattering going on. There was a large portion of change order, parking lot changes to remain approval. One of the other part is we talked about the east parking lot. That was the one behind the Justice Center. Now we've acquired the Bremer property. That's got a revision coming at it because it was kind of undersized before because we didn't own the Bremer property. Now with that, now it has to be adjusted to match.
And the parking structure.
And the parking structure also moved with that, Mr. Allen. With the-
So that proposal you're mentioning will be inclusion of the parking structure that was approved a part of the government center. If you recall, that was on the south side plans, but it's gonna be over on the southeast corner of the Justice Center. We're just trying to work through those plans. Focused on third floor of the government center revisions to get those out. Those were urgent. However, now the east parking area, there's some concepts, but we've got to work through any of that before it comes to you guys for approval.
So that change, we kind of, when we decided to move the parking, we knew that was coming up. And plus, in the original plan before the Bremer property, that parking lot back there in the east was a little bit undersized for what the amount of employees there. So that's going to be changed to reflect that. And that's coming forward to us. And they also said they did mention we get a project lighting rebate of about $52,000 from the
Really
city of
nice.
Buffalo, and that'll be credited back to the project account. And that's going out, just keep it on schedule inside. People are working well in there, and I'm seeing a lot of progress.
Can we use that shed on the Bremer property for the parking for the city or for the county vehicles?
We don't own that, somebody else owns that.
But if it's not gone by the first of the year, it turns back to the county property, doesn't it?
And
I think they just want to make sure they get their ladder out of it, and after that, you're good to go.
Ladder road, yeah. Okay, but there's nothing else to report on that. It was good. We get the tour with Tom Kelly had some of his staff tour that hadn't toured before, and like I say, it's come along fantastic. I mean, it's going well. The crew is working good there. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Owners Committee Justice Center minutes of 11/20.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden to approve the Owners Committee Justice Center from November 20th.
Mr.
And
Chair.
the recommendations. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Dahlheiden.
where are we with that issue with the cap that went in front of the,
The jury
was
box.
it the jury box?
I think it was the jury box, wasn't it, Alan?
It's in the back hall.
It's all the way around the
Also the
bench
fr-
area, the
That's
jury
what I thought.
box, kind of the whole rail. It's a rail cap around. And just to remind you, the issue, if there's a straight line, there is no issue with the cap. It's where there's, similar to what you have here, there's a curvature to the front. The radius on the stone couldn't be manufactured that way. So it's kind of a complicated situation, but essentially what's going on is they have to stack layers of stone. By doing that, it created a seam across that stone face that you could see. And so we were looking to revise that detail or find a different product. We've gone through a couple products that were unacceptable from a durability standpoint. So we've gone back to the original, the current status is we went back to the original manufacturer, and where those seams are, we came up with an idea that if we did a reveal or a router in those and made it look like there's supposed to be a cut there, that could potentially eliminate the issue, that it wouldn't just look like a joining issue. It'd look like there's actually a detail of a router cut in there. So they're producing a sample that we'll be reviewing. We haven't gotten that yet, but it's on its way. So the other option is to go to Cambria, and there's some expense associated with that. So we've hashed this one out for 8-10 months now, probably.
Wouldn't it
and
be
we're
cheaper
still-
just to make everything 90 degrees?
Not necessarily, just because
wood?
of the orientation of the courtroom and the way the design is to keep everybody facing in. Had you made 90s, it wouldn't have been cheaper, I would tell you that, because it would have revised all the wood as well, and the supplier of that would have charged you revisions on that anyway, so it wouldn't have been any cheaper. Likely the outcome is that I feel pretty good that these routers could work really well, so it wouldn't cost us really anything.
Can't we do wood with like a glass top on it?
Glass.
Like you can use like a
We've gone around
plexiglass.
and around with about 4 million different ideas, and this is where we're at right now. And before anything's decided, it'll be presented for review and discussion, and judges are all a part of this. It's kind of a big detail, because it's kind of the whole appearance of your courtroom is that cap. That's what you see running the whole front. So
They make
kind
really
of a
nice
big
black glass that if you put the nice little silver bead pieces on the top to hold it together, I mean, that looks just like stone.
the only thing
Yeah.
is durability, scratching, and how do you repair it?
Right.
Hey,
But
Mr.
you can
Chair,
replace it
there's-
6 times over for the
Yeah.
cost of the stone.
Well, it's not stone. It's a simulated stone.
Yeah,
so,
but
it-
Cambria, whatever.
no. So.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It didn't really go into detail on that because I know they've been working through this. That's why I didn't really mention it, because they hadn't come up with a solution yet. So I figured wait until they come up with a solution, then they can come talk to us about this. Because if I say it now, then you throw out a million ideas, and they've been working on things. That just let them work it through,
Yeah.
figure it out, and then they'll come back to us and tell us what they came up with. Because the durability is the big ticket, the looks, the durability, and everything else is.
The big issue that was a rush before is because we didn't have the dimension of how thick it would be. If we eliminated a couple slabs, it changed the detail, the profile of the front of the bench. So they couldn't manufacture the bench until we got a decision on that. So that was kind of a rush to get it done so they could get those panels made. We've decided on that, so the bench, everything is good to go. That's all done. It's just application of the stone once it's done.
Sure. Thank you, Alan.
Good.
All right, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Owners Committee from November 20th Justice Center is approved. Recommendations as well. Now we are down to the November 20th Personnel Committee. I guess I'm gonna let you guys coin flip, arm wrestle, whatever you guys want. Pick a number between Commissioner Dahlhead and Commissioner Hewsome.
Ladies first.
Okay. So the Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on November 20th. Members present, Leyden Hewsome, Sean Johnson, also Jamie Goodrin, Joe Pooler, Lee Kelly, and Lori Pollock. And the discussion was to reduce 2 full-time public health nurse positions to 2 half-time public health nurse positions. Also to reclassify the vacant 1 full-time public health position to 1 full-time social worker position, and to reclassify 1 full-time employee case aide position to 1 full-time social worker position. So it kind of sounds complicated, but Jamie Goodrin gave an overview of the 3 agenda item requests and explained that they're all related to each other. She recalled that back in 2015 or 2016, when they had set up the Min Choices unit from the Department of Health Services, they believed that the best practice at the time was to include the public health nurses and the social workers in conducting the assessments. And there's currently two public health positions that report to the social services supervisor. So she explained that both current public health nurse positions are long-term employees, and they're both interested in moving to part-time positions, which allows a vacancy in the public health nurse position. With the county board approval, she'd seek to reclassify the vacant public health nurse position to a social worker position within the Min Choice area. Excuse me. She also explained that they have a case aide position that's already been working out of class as a social worker for a few months, and this position has been approved for the remainder of 2019. She explained that with the reclassification of the vacant public health nurse to a social worker position, this will result in a lower position classification of financial service, actually financial savings for the county. And they're also requesting to reclassify a full-time case aide position to the full-time social worker within the assessments in the Min Choice unit. So the committee members met in November and did the reclassification budget, which is attached, identified the proposed reclassifications, which would be actually a cost savings of $21,000 in the 2020 budget. Discussion was held, and what's the correct procedures for posting the reclassification positions, and Human Resources Director Sean Johnson stated they didn't have any concerns about the reclass, and so both Commissioner Leyden and I agreed that this would be a fine move. It is a cost savings, and it just sort of streamlines everything. So, and they also have a org chart that potential upon approval of this that's attached. So the recommendation is to approve reduce the 2 full-time public health positions to 2 half-time public health positions, reclassify the vacant public health position to a social worker position, and to reclassify the full-time case aide to a social worker position. With that, I know it sounds really complicated, but it kind of boils down to a simplification, actually. I would move approval of the minutes and the recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Potter, to approve the minutes and recommendation from the Personnel Committee that met on November 20th. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate Commissioner Hewson and Leyden going through this with Jamie, because at first when I saw this, I go, okay, this is a little late in the game for a budget to how you
Right.
classifying this, but this is after reading more of it, getting more information, budget savings is one part of it, but the other part is streamlining operations, which we were always asked our department heads to do. So I applaud them for going forward and saying, okay, this is going to streamline operations and make it more efficient. So kudos to this, because normally when I see these things this late in the year, you're kind of, first thing is time out what's going on here, because you always wonder what the end result will be. But this one actually makes a lot of sense.
And looking back, and I haven't gone back in my notes, but when the state went with the min choices and essentially told us we need 6 new social workers for, it's just got,
They lied.
yeah. So anyway,
Spoke.
No, they
so
lied.
with hiring and then having public health nurses under the social worker purview, and so it's been a complicated situation, no doubt.
Very
Anyway,
good. We have a motion.
Yep,
And we have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. The November 20th Personnel Committee minutes and recommendations are approved unanimously. Now we are on to the to schedule a 12-13-19 Committee of the Whole
So,
agenda, to adopt the agenda, modified agenda. We are looking to remove the third floor discussion, and we are adding the trunk access fees, the dental clinic discussion, the health partners clinic discussion, and the food space.
correct. So as you notated, we had already scheduled a meeting for the 13th. However, we would like to create a second meeting to discuss the third floor that was originally scheduled for the 13th. We had some conflicts with those that needed to be in attendance. So we were looking for a second date on a committee of the whole. I would propose that second meeting, which is the next item, so maybe let's take these separately. What do we do? Item B, which refers the topics to the 13th committee as well as removes the owners committee topic of the third floor as one motion if you'd be so inclined.
Where it says 11, 13.
Yeah, but 12,
12, 13, yep.
I'll make a motion to change the agenda, modify the agenda for the 12-13 Owners Committee.
second that.
Motion by Commissioner Dotlight, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion?
So what time is it starting at?
It was already scheduled. You probably already have it on your
Scheduled for
calendar.
12 o'clock.
Is it?
Oh,
12 o'clock on
12
the
o'clock.
13th. And that time and date will remain.
Are we going to be able to get this thing done within an hour or so, or no?
I knew there were time constraints with the 13th. I
Because
think
I will be leaving at about 1:30 just to make my kids' Christmas thing at 2 o'clock that day, so whatever.
We were starting at noon, I have 10.
You
I
can't
had
start
noon.
at 10, because Commissioner Hewson and myself won't be here, that's the day of.
Just because we added a lot of stuff on these discussions, and I just want to make sure that we can get through all that in an hour and 15 minutes. I'm a little bit, because before we were doing just one topic, and now we're doing a lot of topics, so I'm a little bit,
Well, what's the
Mr.
earliest you guys can start?
Well, actually, I have a conflict, so I can't be at the Highway 25, or 55 Coalition, because I have the Workforce Legislative Breakfast from 8:30 to 11.
Always thinking with your stomach, aren't you?
So-
No, Mr. Chair, we couldn't start earlier because 55 Coalition, and this is one of our big meetings of the game plan for next year, but that's why it was switched to noon.
Oh, okay.
and I just because it changed to a lot. Before we were doing just a single item to doing a variety of items, that's the reason I'm just a little bit.
Well, Mr. Chair, perhaps if there's anything that we aren't able to address on the 13th, we could have it on the 19th. We have the discussion, but,
Otherwise, I'm going to be asking staff to present the information twice over, just because there's a lot of things that I don't know. Otherwise, we should do 2 of them on one, do 2 committees of the whole, and do the trunk access and dental clinic, and then you can do the health partners and cafe at a different time, because I just know that we won't get
You
through
don't think
all
you're
four of
gonna
those
get-
items within.
Well,
I think
No.
we try, because some of the stuff, really the discussion is to move forward with, like the cafe space. We don't know what we don't know until.
Well, there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place with it,
Well,
and I just, I
See, that
say
one,
no.
I disagree. That one, I think, you gotta get it out there and see who wants before you decide.
Yeah,
what
well,
you're gonna do.
I would like to be able to take part in the discussion, but, you know.
I don't know, it just seems like we could be able to touch, or talk about these 4 items in an hour and a half.
We'll all talk really
There's just
fast
no
like
way,
auctioneers.
there's no way we're gonna get it done in an hour and a half.
Can we just set it that it's gonna start
Let's go, start at 11:30 then. Let's start at 11:30 then.
Yeah. Good enough for me.
Will you be back by 11:30?
I hope so.
Because then it makes it a little bit more
If you start
doable.
at 11:30 and I come here at 11:35 or 11:45, it's not gonna be
Okay.
that
Because
long.
then we're blending it out, I mean, that way, if we're a little bit on the backside, just so I think we should be able to, 2 hours, 2 hours we should do it, 90 minutes, I felt like it'd be a little bit tight, I just,
Because I
we can blend it
I
out.
just come from Medina up here, so I should be able to.
If he has to,
Administrator
he'll
Kelly,
leave the
would that
meeting
work?
5 minutes early from Highway
Yeah, I
55,
think we
right?
could make
I can't,
that
I'm
happen.
sure.
Oh, then you can't, yeah.
No, but usually our meetings are an hour, but sometimes they'll stretch an hour and a quarter, hour and a
Sure,
half.
yep.
Just because of the subject.
All
You're
right.
the chair, just move it along.
So we'll just make
Okay,
that
Marvin
for
Johnson.
December 13th at 11:30.
That's okay with?
That works for me better, just because it makes me
With-
feel
with Lee,
comfortable.
though.
Lee, you're good with that, right?
Yeah, I'll make it work, no worries.
Okay. Just gives me a little bit, gives us all a little bit more buffer room to get the discussions taking place. So I appreciate you, everybody working with me on that.
Lunch? Have lunch brought in?
You know what, I'm hoping that I don't have workforce after that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 12-13 Committee of the Whole at 11:30 with the set agenda. You have the motion, you have the second? You're good?
You.
Yep. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right.
So then the second piece of that, the next item is to schedule another committee of the whole to review the third floor bids that come in. The date I'd like to recommend would be the 19th at 1:30, if that would work for the group.
So move, Mr. Chair.
At what time?
1:30,
At 1:30? Now, what day? 19th?
19th,
Perfect. I like it.
does that work for everyone?
That
Yep.
works great.
19th.
Yep,
Hang on.
yeah, you already thought that worked, didn't you?
Did.
Again, at what time?
1:30.
30. Is
Yep.
30.
that a second?
Yeah, I'll second it. And the only caveat is that if we don't get everything discussed on the 13th.
13th, we can carry over.
Carry over to the.
Fair
to the
enough.
night.
There you go, there you go.
Fair enough.
There you
know,
go.
We'll just have to hit those things that are priority on the 13th to make sure we get those things done first, and the other stuff could get carried over.
Yeah, if need to be.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
I agree with that.
September 19th and 1:30. Yeah, perfect, all right. And, all right. So we had a motion, we have a second to schedule a committee of the whole on December 19th at 1:30. Any further discussion? You had a motion on there, right?
Yes,
Yep, yeah.
motion second.
Sorry, just putting all these dates on my calendar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, now we're down to schedule owners committee of the whole for the new, schedule a committee of the whole for strategic planning.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to get a date on the books as our next year's already starting to fill up and we need to have this meeting. As you know, December has become a very busy month, so I would propose either we look at the last week of December or start on the first week of January. A couple thoughts I had is you could potentially do December 30th or the 1st or 2nd, depending on availability. Otherwise, perhaps we'd look at after a board meeting on the 7th.
31st after the board meeting?
I think that sounds better to me. That's better for me.
Yeah.
Nope, that would be good for me. December
31st?
31st at 10 a.m., 10:30?
10:30?
Say 10, and if it goes later, because this could be a short meeting too. Right?
Last one of the
Is there a
year.
motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we set it at 10 o'clock, and if it runs late, we'll just start when we're done.
And that'll be planning, is that what it is?
Strategic, yep.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter to set a committee of the whole strategic planning on December 31st at 10 a.m. following the board meeting. Any further discussion?
Charlie, you bring in the
All right, hearing no further
New
discussion.
Year's
Yeah.
parties? Yeah. Plan, okay.
All right, hearing no other discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Committee of the whole is scheduled for December 31st at 10 a.m. unanimously. All right, advisory updates. I'll start with Administrator Kelly. We'll work this way.
Okay. A lot of the work that's being done by staff this week is in preparation for the upcoming weeks. We do have a busy beginning of December, starting with ERP continuing on the budget sessions for ERP. Of course, the Truth and Taxation meeting is the evening of the 3rd, so working on wrapping up the things for that. And gathering some more information on some of the meetings that we'll have regarding on the 13th there, some of those topics as well. We did have a meeting to discuss, it's too bad Mr. Kreiser stepped out, we had a meeting to discuss the workshop meeting and having a board meeting on those same days, and kind of some of the needs and the challenges of potentially looking at that new board meeting. We think that we may be able to accomplish the concerns that were raised at the workshop by just addressing some scheduling things at the workshop rather than doing another board meeting. So more discussion, I guess, to come on that. But a lot of stuff going on next week between union negotiations, ERP, and taxation meeting is that week. So lots going on. Following week, of course, is the AMC conference. So, and we'll have any adjustments we decide to make on the budget coming in the Truth and Taxation, then we'll have to be presented on the 17th, which is still planned for our final adoption of the budget for 2020's budget. So, quick overview.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week I sat in for Kevin Castle down at Trailblazer meeting, and interesting the concerns with what's going on down there. I think the idea, it kept it lighthearted, but I think Commissioner Vetch had to know where Sibley and McLeod County were. Are they partners or not? And they did say that, yes, they are partners. They were a little uncomfortable with that petition, the resolution, but you asked them point blank, you have to do something, get their attention. I think it got their attention. So that was interesting there, and like I say, I sat next to Commissioner Swanson just to make sure it's there. Like I say, it was a cordial meeting. I mean, I was expecting a little fireworks, and it didn't happen, which, you know, is good to know. The other thing with I met with I-94 Coalition last week, from Glencoe up to 94 Coalition, so it was a lot of driving really quick. We did not get that build grant, like I said, and we're going through some of the things going on that, say, we asked for 25 million, most of them are between 13 and 18 million dollars, so we're gonna do a follow-up trip out to DC to find out what we gotta do to change this. And some of the concerns come out is with the impeachment hearings there, and some of our elected officials, not only our two state senators, but also our U.S. senators, but also the mayor of Minneapolis, if that didn't have some kind of effect down there a little bit. Secretary Cho was going to come out and tour 94 and then abruptly didn't come out. And so we're just going to ask some of the questions, what do we got to do? And so you got to wonder if that didn't have play into it a little bit. But the fact is, you know, we're going to keep trying again. And the fact that I think the other part that factors in there is that MnDOT has that section of 25 slated for 2025 replacement. And since this is 2019 and it's outside the STIP, it might wait until next year when it's actually within that 5-year window. there's a lot of different variations. We're trying to figure out what it is. District 3 was not gung-ho for it, but central office was. And I know that with District 3, they had spent a lot of extra money on that Monticello to Clearwater and other projects around. So that might have been just tapped a little bit. And so being outside that 5-year plan, that might be part of what tripped us up here a little bit, but we'll just keep trying. That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Dalton?
Last week on Tuesday afternoon, we had the mental health task force meeting, which is again a state mandated, actually, requirement. And we're always in need of new members for that. So if you ever have anybody that has an interest in mental health, please ask them to sign up for it. Discussions there, again, were something that we've had issues with for a long time, and that's a lack of housing, or lack of beds, housing for people that are in need of it. And then remember this Saturday, tree walk up in Waverly City Hall for Wright County Community Action. Food vendors will be there. It's a fundraiser. Bunch of trees that will be decorated differently and then donated to those in need.
And I think what you do, you go around and you vote on it,
Yep.
and it does, what is it, like 50 cents to a vote or something?
Yeah,
It's
something
a
like that.
fundraiser for community action.
Well, and when is it, this
Saturday.
Saturday?
This coming Saturday.
Yeah, and then
3 o'clock,
and
starts at 3.
Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus and all that sort of good stuff. And food. Charlie likes the food part.
Yeah.
And then, Christine, what time did you say you wanted us all over there at your house on Thanksgiving?
Oh, very nice.
Gosh, you can go anytime, because, we're going to be somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
I got 11,
Just
so
make,
Okay,
so
well-
save a lot of room. I
Yep,
need
okay.
2 tables usually for my family.
I can probably
just make
scramble
s-
some eggs about
just-
11.
Yeah, just make sure that there's plenty of food in the
Yeah,
fridge, that's all.
okay, no problem.
Then just a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
So last week was a busy week. November 19th, after the board meeting, we had their public hearings for the redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 20, or not public meetings, or public hearing, but the informational meeting for the redetermination of benefits on 2029-36. Probably 40 to 50 people in attendance.
were, wow.
There was a very, very good attendance. I was a little bit afraid we might be here till midnight. We were able to accomplish and get everybody's questions answered within a 2 hours time frame, which was very, very good. Once again, we maybe have to look at changing our methodology of using that $100,000 example. It got a lot of people really, really worried because these ditch systems 2 of them are very small. And we have no intention of spending anywhere close to $100,000. So a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you're assessing me $2,000, and they're like, no, we will probably never spend $100,000 on County Ditch 29. I mean, it's less than a half a mile.
Well, then we just need to address it based on theoretical issues with that.
And that's what, yeah, that
Ditch 10, 100,000 is very realistic.
And I think those samples, maybe I'll have to work with H2 overviewers to make sure that when they send those examples out, they take into consideration the size of the ditch. Because otherwise, we're getting people here, because they're like, well, I wouldn't have came tonight if I knew that I'm only going to get assessed $30, not $300. If they read it all, I guess you'd understand that it
I
was a
just think
sample.
it's easy, and then, if it's a 50,000, cut everything in half. If it's a 25, it just, to me, it makes sense.
But I guess people don't read it close enough to understand that this is a sample, or an example, not cost that we intend to spend. Anyways, so outside of that, then flew right from that public hearing and made the very end of the Silver Creek Township meeting. And at that meeting, they did formally vote to fill out the application and move forward with intending to join the CMRP group, Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership.
Okay.
So we will be taking action on them on their application and potentially Monticello Township's application at our meeting here in December. The next day after that, we did have our Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership meeting. At that meeting, we adopted our our potential budget. We did a revised budget for the rest of this year, and then we put together a potential budget for all of the next year. So. Outside of that, then, we had our Trailblazer meeting, which Commissioner Potter was very nice to attend with us. We went over AECom was hired by MnDOT to do a 5-year plan. Very good details. I hope at some point, maybe in the first of the year, in one of the workshops, to maybe bring that presentation forward for you, because I think there's a lot of good information that you guys should see from that 5-year plan for Trailblazer. Then outside of that as well, we yesterday had another Trailblazer meeting to conduct our review of our executive director. He was given a meets/exceeds expectations as a collective for Mr. Ludwig for the executive director. Also, somewhere in the first January, February, we'll be probably coming back with another updated presentation from the CMRP group as well, kind of updating where we're at this far and where we're going with it. So definitely workshops will fill up very, very quick in the first quarter of next year.
Hey, Mr. Chair, before you move on, I want to personally thank Kevin Castle for serving on the Trailblazer board. The guy is fantastic and he's well respected, and I think it's worked out well for all of us. So, Kevin, thank you.
He has been very, very great to have on there.
So, Derek, is there ever any talk of Wright County, because of our population, our size, just having our own system? I think we're so dissimilar to a Sibley and a McLeod that it almost, it's, I don't know, it just seems like we should almost have our own system and because of our size and population. Is there?
I mean, there's discussion on it.
Yeah.
At the meeting, we did agree that we were going to operate for the next 2 years and finish out our contract with MnDOT in that respects. Will there be more discussions going on after the fact that are in the next 2 years as to whether we should stay together? Absolutely, there will be those conversations. There is a huge benefit to Sibley and McLeod County with Wright County partnering with them. They basically are, because our fare box and our contracted rides are much greater in Wright County, it's able to dilute down their local share to almost zero. That would probably not be the case if Wright County wasn't partnering with them. So there's...
Well, I'm thinking of Wright County, I guess.
Yeah. But that's where we're having the discussions. There's things that we need to be able to maintain those metrics, and it's just a matter of whether they're okay with it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay, so I met with, actually, the Regional Crime Lab meeting was canceled because there was conflicts with a few of the 3 sheriffs, actually. So I was able to go to the Tactical Training Center meeting, which was, we've already talked about, so that was really fun to be out on that property. And then I also went to the Wright County Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council and fire departments, fire chiefs. And Marion from Central Minnesota EMS gave a presentation about the OD mapping. So they're doing mapping to locate the different, where people are overdosing on drugs in the state, and to give kind of an indication of, what's going on. So there, she had a little presentation so we can, get that information in a timely manner. So it's, where do we need these resources sent, and that kind of thing. So it's been used in other states, it's new in Minnesota. And the regional and local updates, they're doing active shooter training. There's 5 drills scheduled. And the Heart Safe Communities, which was located with Alina, and Susan Robinson was doing that, but then she became the coordinator for Safe Communities of Wright County, and so that has been moved to a Metro coordinator. So anyway, it's always good discussions at those meetings. And then I was also at the Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Services Region and part of the coordinator's report was that about the OD mapping. And my understanding is that there's been 7 saves with Narcan so far this year, so that continues to help. Unfortunately, there's been a number of deaths also from overdosing. What is the services building, the Stearns County Service Building Center that we meet at, has been doing an addition, and so Marion Marion Larson with EMS will be relocating into that space, and so that's kind of in progress right now. Otherwise, we continue to seek more stable funding so we can offer more training grants and equipment grants to our local fire departments, et cetera. And we also had a discussion about, with our we have 11 different counties in our region, and we can be pretty different because counties may have essentially a local ambulance service that's a first responder, and they're, coming out in the middle of the night or whatever, and contrast that with like Wright County, which has the 2 services, the Central Care and Alina, but we also have Ridgeview as part of our meetings, really. And so there's kind of some real differences, and so I suggested putting together a spreadsheet with the different counties to see where the needs are for some of these grants and that kind of thing. There is a Sourcewell, it's called, that's operating actually in Region 5, and I don't know if I think there's 5 counties in our region that could potentially benefit from some of their dollars and their training. They've got trainers on retainer that would be essentially a free service for some of the counties in our region. So I just needed to get sort of a sense of where all the counties are at and what their needs are. So more to come on that. And just a little plug for the Buffalo Area Dementia Friends. They have a caregiver support group that meets every Tuesday from 9:30 to 11 a.m. at Zion Lutheran Church. And it's essentially a time for conversation, connecting with others, and a support group. And I think that if any of you out there are caring for someone with dementia, it's nice to connect with others. They're going through the same thing. So. And I was on the radio last Wednesday, and that Tim's such a good interviewer that he went, those 30 minutes approximately go pretty fast.
And I did miss the owners committee for the Justice Center. I was down meeting with the DNR staff again, and we also had like Brian Martinson from AMC, we had Minnesota Rural Caucus, the watershed districts. We're kind of all looking on our side to be able to do our ditches and, where they affect public water, do it at a minimal rate, but where the riff is who is going to be the final say, and the DNR wants to be the final say, and on our side, we would like to be able to say, we got to take care of our ditches, and, we'll respect your public waters to the extent possible. But so that's where the little disagreement is, but there's actually legislation, it's not proposed yet, but there's draft language that John Kolb drew up, and we're just kind of seeing where we go. I'm encouraged with the higher-ups at the DNR as far as their willingness to work with us, at least verbally, and so I think it's almost like maybe we gotta try it out and see, put something forward. And they do have a review committee. This I think was prompted almost from our Highway 75 up there, where they had that, if we have a local hydrologist that is not, we can't seem to work with, you can go to this higher up review committee, just almost an instant review. So you wouldn't have to call the legislators in maybe and get some action. So we're making progress, I think, and I just don't know where it's going to go. But it was a good discussion, and like I said, it's kind of nice to get to know, like these are some of the higher ups in the DNR, and as far as with the public waters, and it's having that personal relationship is a good thing, I think. So we'll
Yeah,
see
for sure.
See where it goes, I guess.
Very good.
All right, that's all I had.
Yes, Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Burrell. Always, especially with the DNR, always look for the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Mr. Bob Meyer, you know, I don't know if he was there at that meeting.
Bob was there.
Good, because sometimes the talking heads say something behind the curtain and something else
Bob
happens.
and Steve, Coven, I think it is, both very, very willing to work with us, and so they understand our concerns, is what, what they're saying anyway. Where it kind of gets a little bit, it seemed like there's a conversation here, and then when it goes to the DNR attorneys, things kind of get bogged down, so.
Attorneys.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes, though. I want to keep an open mind on it.
I'll believe it when I.
I'm glad you're doing the great work there for us, Charlie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One quick thing I forgot to mention. Nick Zerwas,
Yes.
Representative Nick Zerwas, who represents a small part of Otsego, is resigning due to some health issues. So, and he's been a state representative for quite a while.
2012, he got elected.
So, anyway, I want to thank him for his
Yeah.
years of service helping out
Absolutely.
the county.
Yeah, I saw that on the news. He had some health concerns, but
Yep.
wish
So-
him well.
Yep,
Yes.
so do I.
Good, strong
The
voice.
way it sounds, he's survived a lot longer than doctors ever expected him to, from when he was born, so.
Yep.
It's a super guy.
Well, he's battled this, I mean, he's a fighter, and,
Yep,
we
he
just
is.
wish him the best.
Yeah, right. And so, Mr. Chair, is this something we can have admin write a letter of thanks to Representative
I think
Zerwas?
that'd be good if we did that, yeah. Send one on behalf of the board, absolutely.
Yeah, because
Yep.
it's right, the gentleman is rock solid.
Yep.
I mean, and just.
Yeah, he's going to bat for, especially with Health and Human Services and
Oh,
stuff.
he's done, he takes on it and he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up.
Nope, no, he's not.
Well, if there's no other business to attend to, we will adjourn at 10:22.